Now, in them early days, in them middle 80s, late 80s, early 90s, Minneapolis was GD and Vice Lords. I mean, yeah, you had Stones. Definitely had Stones. You had Black Souls. You feel me? You even had a few black disciples. But the cats that were putting it down, when you heard about a humbug, when you heard about some gang banging, it was Vice Lords and Disciples. 9 times out of 10. And the Disciples, being the deepest criminal organization in Minnesota, still is, were everywhere. Minneapolis, Saint Paul, South Side, North Side, suburbs. But in them early years, they weren't as organized as they would have become in the early 90s. You see, the GD migration to Minneapolis was totally different than the Vice Lords. The Vice Lords came similar to the GDs where families migrated from Chicago to Minneapolis. But the Vice Lords came through an organization as well, a nonprofit organization known as The Way Inc., where conservative Vice Lord members came to Minneapolis, working outreach programs. And they brought that Lordism, that Vice Lord mentality, which stuck and made the Vice Lords not only the second deepest criminal organization in Minnesota, but the most organized at that time. You see, I joined the Almighty Vice Lord Nation at 13 years old, 1986. And at that time, I had been well versed in what a Vice Lord was and what a Vice Lord was meant to do. You know, elementary school, we're fighting each other over turning our hats to the right or left. And we ain't Vice Lords. We ain't disciples, but we're wannabes. And like anybody, we came off the porch at 10, 11. Easy. And so we wanted to be like the bigger Lords, the bigger GDs that we seen. We went to elementary school. We emulated what we thought it meant to be a Vice Lord, a disciple. There were times I got jumped. There was times we jumped down. But by 1986, 1987, I'm full-fledged conservative Vice Lord. And I'm running the streets, engaging in skirmishes day to day with GDs, Black Souls. My hood is connected to the Blood family, which is now known as the Cross Lake Rolling 30s Bloods. This gang started totally separate from Los Angeles Bloods. You understand me? Original Minneapolis Blood gang. It wasn't until the middle 80s, late 80s that they joined the Blood Alliance with Los Angeles. You understand me? So now, like I said, it was every day as a young Vice Lord that we were banging against GDs. Me, myself, I used to go from South Side to North Side. A lot of my schools from junior high on up were all over North. So there was a lot of times I ran into GDs, whether it was on the bus, at school, downtown. Roller Gardens was a common spot. And those that were in it remember how it used to be. Sometimes they caught us, sometimes we caught them. The Crips began to migrate from Los Angeles to Minneapolis, the 6-0s, shotguns, Raymonds. And they began to get their money. They came with the product and tripled their prices. Cats like Big U and the 6-0s. You know what I'm saying? Space Ghost and the 9-0s. Reputable shotguns. Raymonds. They came to Minneapolis and they got paid. When they first came to Minneapolis, there was no drama. The other gangs and organizations did not see them as immediate threats. By this time, the Bloods did, because like I said, it was in the late 80s when their connections with the Bloods in Los Angeles began, and they became aware of Crips as their number one enemy. And so they initially started bumping heads, naturally. But when it came to Vice Lords, Disciples, and the other cliques that were around at that time, it was money to be made. As far as the Crips go, they had the good prices, and they had to wait. So that gave the Crips a good 3 years to ball, you know what I'm saying, to initiate new members, and to get their little territories, get a place where they could, a home base. By 1990, boom. Their first war after, separate from them and the Bloods, was the Vice Lords and Crips. All out war. And even though, the shotguns didn't get along with the 60s. You feel me? The shotguns didn't get along with the 9-0s. So it wasn't like they were teaming up with us. As a Vice Lord, we was banging against GDs. By 1990, we could banging against GDs now, 6-0s, 9-0s, you know what I'm saying? And shotguns. And I'm not going to lie, because their G's and some of their members came from Los Angeles, the level of gangbanging, the level of violence, it started to go up because of that. I'm going to give them their props. I've always said that the Crip gangs in Minneapolis, when it came to gangbanging, as a Vice Lord, as an opposition, they were formidable opponents. They made me raise my level. I had to. They was playing for keeps. They had a West Coast style. I was brought up on a Midwest Chicago style, more organized, more think before you act. Theirs was more of a crash out when it came to gunplay. And they constantly pushed the line. They would bully you if you let them. You understood me? You knew they were around. They had that type of swagger. So naturally, they were going to butt heads with the Vice Lords, because we were the most organized at that time, second largest, and we were arrogant as a mother. You feel me? Now, the North Side has always had a Chicago feel. A lot of Chicago people migrated to Minneapolis and made families on the North Side. So it's got a Chicago feel. You've had your Mickey Cobras, your Stones, your Unknown Vice Lords, your Disciples, your Black Souls, your BDs. All these cats were over north in the late 80s, early 90s. The Crips were just getting established. They had a stronghold in Saint Paul. The 6-0s and the 9-0s were stronger in Saint Paul. But then the 6-0s had a spot over south. The 9-0s tried to establish a spot over south. We began to butt heads with the 9-0s at first, because the 6-0s were doing their business over by the Native Projects on the opposite side of Lake Street. That's the opposite side. Our hood is Cross Lake. So we didn't bump into the 6-0s until around 91, 92. You see what I'm saying? 90, 91, we started funking with the 9-0s. Little skirmishes that built up and got worse and worse each year. The more they got their money up and the more they got their members up, we didn't know it was unwinnable. The wars were all unwinnable. There was no way we were going to eliminate them totally, and they were going to eliminate us. All we could do is hope to push them out of our section, and know that we wouldn't get pushed out of our section by them, because we were more established. We lived there. We were deeper. A lot of them came from out of town. A lot of shotgun Crips over north used to be vice lords. You understand me? So there's a lot of political shit that went on back then. A history that has everything to do with how Minneapolis turned out, how it is now, and why it was called Murderapolis in 95. That's why we developed this page right here, because we're going to give that history. We're going to do them interviews, you know what I'm saying, with all the reputables that were around in the 80s, the 90s. You know what I'm saying? We're going to talk to the young cats now that got the streets. You feel me? Every coast, east, west, and even the cats down south, they're giving their history, the documentation of their reputables and what their streets had to offer and the whole scheme of things. Minneapolis is unique because Minneapolis is one of the oldest cities in America, one of the first that had Crips and vice lords and disciples and bloods. You understand me? And the style of gangbanging, Chicago meets Los Angeles in a city that made for a totally different type of atmosphere. You had reputables, all the reputables, from Willie Lord to Big U, Space Ghost. You know what I'm saying, me? Sharif Willis, China Joe. You had real members that came to Minneapolis and established. So you know what I'm saying? If you enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe. Hit that like and that share and press that notification bell so you can get the next video that we drop. And we're going to continue to give you the history. We're going to go in depth, man. You understand me? Because I think right now, you guys out there are ready to hear something different. And a lot of you Minneapolis born and raised, you're ready to hear something about y'all. We're tired of hearing about all this politics in the West Coast. You know what I'm saying? And these dudes out east. You know what I'm saying? Till next time, man. Safety first.